Welcome to Is Your Way in Your Way podcast, where your host, Cassandra Crawley-Mayo, helps you break free from obstacles and live life on your terms. Get ready to embark on a journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and inspiration. Tune in as we dive into captivating conversations with experts and explore topics that will ignite your passion and drive. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Let's dive in.
Good day out there to all my listeners. And if it's not daytime for you when you're listening, well, good evening, good afternoon, good morning. But anyway, hello, everybody out there, and welcome to Is Your Way in Your Way podcast. And many of the listeners may not know that that's the title of my book, Is Your Way in Your Way. So why not, what I would say, correspond the book with the podcast? All right. So this podcast is actually about individuals who are stuck. And I'm qualified to say this, and I'm qualified to have written the book, qualified for this podcast because I have been in my way. And I realized I was in my way probably when I graduated from college. You know, it's kind of weird, but I was. And so this is an opportunity that hope that you're inspired. Something really resonates with you that will enable you to start unleashing your potential so that you can live your best life on your terms. And we talk about topics that are related to personal development and business development. And I also know the titles that we talk about will enable you to reflect on some things that occurred in your life. And I have a special guest this day. And her name, and I'm going to introduce you to her. Her name is Kay Oliver. Hi, Kay.
Hello.
Great
Glad to be here.
So glad you are here. And listeners, the name of this podcast is called Hollywood Insider Takes Control of Her Creativity. That's right. A Hollywood insider takes control of her creativity. So when you think of Hollywood, it's the American motion picture industry, right? All out in the LA area. Well, before we get really delve into how she takes control of her creativity in Hollywood, let me share a little bit of her bio so that you can get a little background on her before we delve in. Again, I'm excited to introduce our guest, Kay Oliver. She's a storyteller with over 3 decades of experience in entertainment. She holds degrees in radio, TV, film, and an MBA in business, and has produced, written, and directed films while defying gender biases in Hollywood. Kay's novels champion women's resilience, featuring professional characters who navigate life's challenges with humor. Her literary journey includes the successful Disturbed Tombs series and works like Road to Elysium and Ice Cream Moments. And she's been honored in the marquee of Who's Who in America 2024. Kay's legacy as a storyteller, what I would call, is cemented. Unbelievable. So, Kay, before you got to Hollywood, what was your life like before working in the entertainment business?
My life growing up was not the best.
Mm-hmm.
Mother's Day was very hard for me because I found out years later that I had a narcissistic mother who, everything was about her. And my brother was the golden child and I was the not so golden. So it was tough coming to terms with having to learn to believe in myself, by myself, and not look for approvals. I started writing in 6th grade, mind you, years ago.
Wow.
And I entered a speech contest and won. And from there on, I knew I loved writing. So I'd write little short stories and stuff as I was growing up. I joined a speech club and drama, and I did very well in both, garnering leads in high school plays and things like that. And when it came to having to get a college degree, I was married at the time, and I put my husband through school as the agreement was before we got married. And then when it was my turn to go to school, he told me I wasn't going to.
Oh.
I said, bye, bye, bye.
Oh,
No,
no.
that was not the agreement. And I have too much going on for me not to, go to college.
Right.
So I went to college and worked, full time to be able to live. And I decided that I wanted to continue storytelling, and Hollywood is another form of storytelling, right?
Uh-huh.
I got my degree there and started out video editing and writing the news.
Wow. How did you get that job in Hollywood? Was it difficult?
Oh, wow. Right. I have absolutely zero relatives in Hollywood.
Uh-huh.
I'm it. The thing I tell students, because I do go to high schools and things and talk to them, is grab every opportunity you can. Volunteer for whatever you can, even if it's working on a film for free. There's a lot of independent films that can use people. Get your feet wet, get in there, get something on your resume. And number two, network. And as someone who's a student, you can get memberships to different academies or different organizations and attend those functions and network. Even if you're networking with someone else who's networking, who's young like you, because I found you go up the ladder together and then you can help each other out in your careers. So yeah, network.
Okay. So you think networking helped you get into Hollywood?
Absolutely, because I was with someone, I was just talking to him yesterday, actually, who said, hey, there's this opportunity at NBC. Anybody interested? I think he told about 12 people. I was the only person who was willing at the time from Cal State Fullerton to drive to NBC in Burbank. And I said, yeah, tell me about this opportunity. And I took it, and that got me in. So
wow.
Once they see you're a very good worker and you do, and you're not just there for the glamour and the glitz, because there is no glamour and glitz.
Right.
They want you. They need people who are going to do the job that they don't have to worry about.
So, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that, because I always share, with my listeners and even people that I mentor in my speaking, how critical relationships are. The networking, how important it is. A lot of times I've had people that go into their jobs, and usually they, in the evening, they want to go out to dinner, the boss, the executive team. And I don't think that's different in any industry. I think that's kind of like that always in most industries. And I have individuals that say, I don't want to go out to eat. I want to go home, or I want to do this. And I'm like,
right.
well, you know what? Let me kind of explain to you what politics mean. How you have to play the game, because to me it's like a game. I mean, that's how you kind of network and get with people. And a lot of them did not understand that and was upset about it. Like, if I don't want to go, I don't have to go. Well, do you want to excel in this organization? Well, I do. I said, well, you have to get to know people. So that's why I'm glad that you said, yep, somebody helped me. It was somebody that I knew that enabled me to get this job.
Ready to design your dream life? Join Cassandra Crawley-Mayo's Create and Design Your Best Life workshop. Break free from self-doubt and obstacles and step into a life of purpose and fulfillment. Click the link in the description to register now. Don't wait. Spaces are limited. Start living your best life today.
Yeah. And, I could have easily said, well, I don't want to drive to LA. It takes an hour and a half back then, 2 hours now, 2-3 times a week. No, the TV Academy is in LA. I joined that. I'm still a member. And, it's, sure, I could have stayed home, put my feet up, or I get out there and meet people.
That's right.
People help people, and people want to tell their stories. And I did some interviews, just informational interviews with some top executives. And, hey, if you got 10 minutes, I'd love to hear, what you think of it, what you think of my resume, this and that. And I've gotten some great advice, because sometimes, calling me silly, would want to not put everything on my resume. I would, be like, oh, they're going to, think I'm gloating or this or that. And one top executive at Paramount said, put everything on your resume.
Oh,
If they don't like it, then you shouldn't be working for them. Yeah. So it was, so it was great.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. What type of work did you do in Hollywood? What did you do?
I did several different things. I did writing. I did screenplay writing. I had a first and last. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But that was the getting out of my way thing. I oversaw the budgets for a huge studio, multi-million-dollar budgets for TV and film and facilities. And I also worked in the legal background with, assets and liabilities for every film. So, yeah.
Okay. Now, Kay, when you were younger, you talked about, you like doing stories and writing. When you got to Hollywood, was your dreams different, or, did you aspire to be something or do something while in Hollywood?
There were certain things. It's funny because make a huge feature film was not one of them. I did direct films and did write screenplays for features, but being famous, I found out very quickly I didn't want to be famous. I saw what fame does to people, good and bad, but there's a lot of con to it. And I decided behind the camera was best. So I made some really good friends, which I wanted to do. I walked red carpets, I've been to the award shows, and my checklist was pretty full by the time I decided to jump ship, so to speak. So never get out of Hollywood because they're shopping my book around to make a movie. But anyway, so I did everything I wanted to do. I got to work with Steven Spielberg and Jeffrey Katzenberg, and I absolutely loved working. I originally worked with Lou Wasserman, who owned Universal Studios. And what I admired about him, I found in Jeffrey Katzenberg as well. He was an innovator. He came up with different ways to do contracts and different things. And Jeffrey Katzenberg is doing the same thing with animation. And so, he invests in innovation. And he brings, one thing about DreamWorks, when you walk around the campus, every table in the lunchroom has literally almost every table has somebody speaking in another language. It's not really only people from LA. It's where are the best people? Let's bring them on board.
Oh, wow.
So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is. Now you've been with them for 30 years. You were with them for 30 years.
I worked in Hollywood for 30 years.
For 30 years.
Plus,
yeah. So on the tables, how recent was that for different languages? Because I'm thinking about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I do remember the awards, how they said this is the first Asian director So how soon did they do that?
Well, that's DreamWorks style. I'm not sure about, other studios. I can't speak to other studios. DreamWorks was like that day one when I came on board. So, because, they wanted the best.
Okay.
You're working for Steven Spielberg, they want the best.
Right, exactly.
Katzenberg, he wants the best. So, was it inclusion or automatic? I think it was automatic for them, the way they do business.
Okay, so, that's good to know.
You're talking mainly about the Oscars. And let me just differentiate between Oscars and Emmys. Emmys have a lot more voters and a lot more people who make decisions. Oscars are a limited number of people who vote for awards. And you have to lobby really hard for those awards. So it is not necessarily always the best that should be winning. Right? There's a lot of politics behind it.
Yeah.
Throwing it out there.
There you have
it. Yes.
Right. What was it like working with like Steven Spielberg, Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was a film producer, right? A media proprietor, or Steve. I think Steven Spielberg. Spielberg. A lot of people have heard of him, so they sort of know who he is. But what was it like working with them or for them?
They're both down to earth. Both are very genuine. They would just walk around like, anybody else. Of course, that's true at studios, but you could talk to them. I used to go up, and sometimes it's hard to talk to Jeffrey because you can't tell if he's on the phone.
Right.
Hi on the phone, or hi to you. And you're like,
right.
Are you on the phone? Oh, you're not. Okay, let's talk. And then, always wanting to do the best that they could do. Schindler's List, which was a passion project for Steven Spielberg. You could see care and dedication in that film. Otherwise, you say most of his films are commercial. Jeffrey Katzenberg still likes to start with pencil and paper, even though we have computerized, a lot of the animation, but there's that feel that you get. And unlike Pixar, if you look at a couple of the films like Fishtail versus Finding Nemo, the backgrounds are incredible on Jeffrey's films. You don't have just a deep blue ocean to look into. You have cities and other fish and everything else. And a lot more detail goes into those films. And working with them, Jeffrey's I affectionately would say a workaholic. He wants to give 100%. I give 120 anyway, so I've never had a problem with him.
Okay.
I enjoyed working for him a lot, and he asked me to do a lot of things outside of just the parameters of the consumer products that I was working on. So I enjoyed a lot of things, and they gave us, we had film festivals for the employees and all sorts of things. And we would bring, back when we had music, when Geffen was part of the three-pronged of the people that worked there, Toby Keith came out and sang, Elton John came out and sang to the employees. And we just, it was fun. It was really a nice place to work.
Okay. With your skills, your knowledge, and like the storytelling and screenplays and all of that, I'm certain that you submitted some information to them and said, what do you think about this idea? How did that work being in a male-dominated industry?
Well, first of all, working in a male-dominating industry, before you even submit anything, there are things that have taken place that I can't even begin to describe, or I would not describe here in public. But I remember one, equal pay was not a thing. They brought in a gentleman, for lack of a better term, to work with me and gave him more money. And when I went into the office and said, look, I have higher degrees, I have more experience. Right. And they said, he has children at home. And I said, yeah, exactly. 9 to 5 or 5 to 9, when are you paying me for? So that made a point. Of course, they, consider you a problem child if you bring up anything.
Right. Exactly.
I had a great male mentor who helped teach me how to present things as men do, but still, everything I did in writing. So I would submit screenplays that had strong, independent, knowledgeable women, and it would be, this is a great screenplay, but women are not marketable. And that's what was in my way.
Right. That's what they said to you. Wow. Yes. When you talked about you had a mentor, did you have a coach in that organization? You had a mentor in the organization? Did you have sponsors in the organization?
I seeked out mentors.
Okay.
I would ask, and in this particular, because I wanted to learn how to do things like men, I had my boss mentored me, and his boss above him mentored me. And I asked for that.
Okay.
So I literally said, hey, would you, help me, writing up this proposal, show me what you would do, how you'd present it, etc.
Mm-hmm. Now, what? Now you left the industry.
Mm.
How did you do that? Was it difficult, or and why did you do that?
So two reasons. Well, first of all, I did get a diagnosis of breast cancer during my career. I was
Mm-hmm.
let go from the job I was working at that week. So I
Oh,
was left without money,
mm-hmm.
income, because I'm not married, single,
Yeah.
and no insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And I battled through that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
yes, you could go after the company and, lawsuit, but the question was, do I want to file a lawsuit or do I want to take care of myself?
Uh-huh.
And I decided to take care of myself, went through it all. When I went back into Hollywood and was hearing, good script, but not, marketable, um, I decided, you know what? I've done it before. I've taken the leap before. Not of my choice, but this
Yeah.
was my choice this time.
Right.
And I stepped out of Hollywood as best you can.
Mm.
And I have a great career, and so people always want me to come work for them. But I stepped out of Hollywood and started writing. And my first book, Disturbed Tombs, which is now a series, started
Mm.
winning all sorts of awards. So I knew I was on the right track to something.
Right.
Starting to
Exactly.
be a character, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yes, I went back to writing and wrote a book that had been in my mind for years ahead of time.
Right. And actually that's something that you grew up doing. Like you said, you would write. And so would you say that is your calling, and the experiences that you had in Hollywood solidified that for you, you think?
I would agree to that because there's things that I learned in Hollywood. I learned a lot in Hollywood about storytelling. The difference between a book and a movie is a book, you have to write everything that's in the vision, right? Where a
Mhm.
movie, you could have, you see the kind of surroundings that are there and you don't have to write about them,
Mhm.
right? Because, if you want someone to look strategic, they have a chessboard next to them or, something like that. Where in
Mhm.
the book, you have to develop that character and write it out, which is fun for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then the Spielberg thing is scream to laugh or laugh to scream. He likes to do that in his films.
Uh-huh.
And so in my books, you don't get a lot of foreshadowing either when I change the rhythm. And you think
Mhm.
you're heading one way, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, that's not.
Right.
And I
Right.
normally do it with a fun, aspect of it. So yeah,
Mhm.
I did. I learned, and I see my books in my head like you're watching a film.
Oh,
So
wow.
because I was an editor, if you want to be a director, you should be an editor first. Uh,
Okay.
I didn't know that, but I loved editing. I loved putting the pieces together
Mhm. Mhm.
and the puzzle pieces together. I've always loved that.
Mhm.
So when I'd go to direct, I'd know exactly what I needed, because I knew what I'd need in the booth back when we had
Mm.
booths. But yeah, so I actually see my books in my head like a film.
Wow. That's amazing how you won an award, like bestseller books. I mean, how does that happen? That by me being a publisher, it wasn't easy for me. And you are a writer, and you know individuals, and you can get probably you work with people that wrote, so they could probably give you some feedback. And uh what was it you think that made you to be well, I'm calling you a world-renowned author because you've written so many books. How did you think you became a best-selling, or what do they call you, the what did they say, the storytelling? You've written the Disturbed Tombs, the Elysium book.
Road to
uh,
Elysium, yeah.
Yeah, which means happy, going to your happy place. So tell my listeners about that, because a lot of them would love to write. They'd like to write. They'd like to
Ah,
write a book.
yes, yes. Okay, so on my website, which is my name, by the way, just
Uh-huh.
Kaya Oliver.com.
Mhm. Mhm.
I have writing tips. I have how to get started. The
Mhm.
main thing is, and you can attest to this because you're a writer, is you have to write. Even if you're only writing 15 minutes a day, you need to make a place for yourself. I have a really nice desk with a plant looking out a window, and that's my writing place. And I can put a little music on or put TV background on or something. I don't like the silence. And then start writing. So you have to write, and you have to, I'm a Virgo. I'm a perfectionist. And I had to learn how to just continue writing. Don't, your novel's not made in your first draft or probably your second draft.
Okay.
Novels are really crafted in the editing stage. Okay. So you need to just get your thoughts out, get your writing out, and just write and write and write. You can always go back and change it, add, delete, whatever you want to do. It's not carved in stone. And so I had to learn to just, write. And I'm a pretty fast writer, always have been. And so you have to make sure that you're at least writing 10 to 15 minutes a day. You just start off with if you're having a hard time. Don't start beating yourself up. Oh, no one's going to want to read this. This isn't going to mean anything to anybody. Who in the world would even consider this? There's somebody out there who wants to read it. Somebody out there who needs to hear it. Somebody else that dreams like you dream. Right. So, just get it out there. I started with novellas, actually. Disturbed Tomb started as a small novella. And the good thing about that was a novella is 40,000 words or less, not a short story, but long enough to be a book. You go through the whole thing. You go through the book cover, the editing, the publishing, and you get all that under your belt. And then you go, okay, I got that. Okay. And then, and I give that book away for free, by the way. If you want to be on my mailing list, you can get that book for free. And that's literally chapters like 1 through 5 of Disturbed Tombs. I kept it available so that if anybody wants to, read my style or whatever on that particular series, they can start with that book if they wanted to. So, you can make use of your novellas while you're learning the ropes. Then all that nerves go away, and then you just can concentrate on writing.
Wow. And you call that novella? What do you call that?
The novella. Yeah, a novella is a shorter book.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. And how do you spell that?
Novella.
Okay. All right. I've seen that. Wasn't quite sure what that was, so I didn't take a deep dive into looking up the definition for that.
Yeah. So, books by numbers. A normal novel will be 50,000 to 80,000 words. A novella will be, 40,000 or a little less. Okay. All right. Okay. The saying how a picture is worth 1,000 words, telling the story, you can, and I when I hear that quote, I always think that you can look at a picture and tell a story just with the image that you see, so you have different images. But then I think about telling a story, how powerful that is. That's when you speak and when you write, because you're a fiction writer, correct? Right. So there's and you're the infamous storyteller. And I remember the old models, like, executives used to talk about missions and visions, and that model is kind of like, okay, that's fine. But to me, I think there's a new model that's telling the story of events, and those are things that I understand that people remember. They will remember the story, or, there'll be a great session, a great talking. And they said, that was great. And then they said, well, what was it about? Well, they can't remember, but they remember the story. Right. Right. So, so with your books, you were told that stories transcend the pages. So the readers tell me about my books. Yes.
Right. So how do you go about, or let me say this, because I remember you saying earlier that you have a book that's probably going to be turned into a movie, you think?
Road to Elysium. Yeah, this one.
Right. Road to Elysium.
Yeah, it's won a number of awards. It's up there somewhere. Oh, it's right there. Yeah.
Right. So what was it about that book that would turn it into a story? Because there are a lot of movies that were from books.
Yeah, so consider this book, It's a Wonderful Life meets Blindside. Those two movies put together. It was a uplifting 2-second story at the end of a news broadcast about a young boy who asked a man to teach him how to throw a ball. And I went, oh, that is a great story. I need to find out more. I went on search, and the only thing I found is this little blurb, and that was it, about the length of the news story. And I said, no, there's more to this, because there was a boldness in that young man and a givingness in the man who agreed to do it, a knee-jerk reaction. So this book had the foundation of reality in a sense, but putting all the emotions of things that we all go through. I put real life into my books.
Okay.
I put real life situations. You'll be reading along and my character might trip, because that's what we do in life, right? People don't speak in full, complete sentences, so don't write that way. Write the way people speak. And I brought up several different situations within this book. I find that I don't want to say it's complicated, because it's not complicated. I present everything very easily, but every character has their flaws. And because every person has their flaws.
Exactly.
And those come into my stories and are mentioned and dealt with. And people tend to tell me about Road to Elysium in particular. Would I have handled that situation like that? I wonder. And that's where it starts transitioning the page. Or, it's a feel-good ending in the book. And they really like the way the book ends with a Christmas theme, by the way.
Right.
So kind of like, that's why I say It's a Wonderful Life, even though that's not really a Christmas movie. It just happens in winter. So that's why I hear that a lot, I think, because I put things I've experienced, things I know my friends have experienced, and I put them in the books as real life things that happen, because they do.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure my listeners want to get that book. I'm actually going to get that book and read it. I'm a more nonfiction person, but that just sounds so interesting. And like you said, you tell real stories, but you change the name to protect the innocent, right?
Or the guilty. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Wow. I want to explore a little bit. You talked about the themes of depression, racism, and profound impact that a single event can be a life-changing decision. Why do you say that? Like, tell us that story.
Well, every time we're in a black cloud, creativity will get you out of it, really, if you think about it. If you have an issue or a problem and you're just thinking, along the lines of, I only can do this, is not true. Get out of your own way. And so using creativity will do that. So my book, Road to Elysium, covers all those topics. It starts with a man who's lost what's important to him, his family, his wife and child. And when the young boy comes up to him and says, hey, mister, knocks on his window, can you show me how to throw a ball? His knee-jerk reaction was yes. Right? Because you're not going to turn down a kid who asks you how to throw a ball.
Right.
That yes changed everything for his life. His life, the boy's life, and the community's life. So there's times where we might go out and do something almost unconsciously, almost knee-jerk reaction that will lead us somewhere else. That'll lead someone asks you out on a date, right? And you decide, you know what? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna say yes. That little new motto, say yes to everything. I don't say yes to everything, but and you say yes, and you go out and you decide to volunteer somewhere,
right?
And you start meeting people. So just doing something as minor as saying yes to something can change everything, because we can't see the future. We don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
If we do everything with the intent of love, right?
Right.
You can't go wrong. I write with love in my books.
Awesome.
My lead characters have healthy, strong relationships. So much so in Disturbed Tombs, I'd love to marry that leading man. So he's a character, but oh my gosh, is he good? So anyway, so everything is that way in my books. Everybody's respectful of each other. You have bad guys.
Yeah.
Who are not respectful, but the main relationships are always respectful.
Right. So from the books that you write, what's your end in mind for your readers as you write a book? What
Pure
is that?
Enjoyment, I hope.
Okay.
I like to let them see and hear something wholesome, fun, action, adventure, something that'll make you think. I love movies that make me think. Having worked in the industry and being a storyteller, I cannot think of a movie where I've gone, oh, I didn't see that coming. Even in Sixth Sense, where, Bruce Willis, why did the costume department keep him in the same clothes the whole time? And I went, he's dead. So I knew that ending before, so.
Oh my gosh.
And they were very clever because a lot of people didn't catch it, but.
Right. I didn't.
Yeah. So, telling a good, intelligent story is something I value, and I hope my readers value.
Because, when I look at movies or I'm like, so what were they trying to show me? What's the plot? What should I learn from this? And it's always some learning in those stories. Like, what did I get from that? I was trying to think like I don't know, in the studio, did they do the Book of Eli?
Right.
Yeah. So things like that, I'm like, wow, what a lesson, what a story, what a meaning. Funny
that you say that, because right now, Horizon, American Saga by Kevin Costner, is a historical, detailed movie.
Now, what's the name of it?
Horizon, American Saga. It's going to be 4 movies long. It's on the Saga number 1 is on video now, but I literally should be taught in history classes.
Really?
Literally should. It's more of a realization of what it was like to conquer the West and come through the West.
Okay.
Bad and good. Yeah.
Insider tip, huh?
Yeah. That one has a lot to learn from it. Yes.
Okay. Now I want to talk about the title a little bit for my listeners. You're the Hollywood Insider. You take control of your creativity. Explain that.
Yeah. So when you work in Hollywood, and that's one reason why the women, which they should get, is equal pay for roles, is because they can now go out and create films because they're getting the same kind of money that men have been able to do.
Right.
And they can get a hold of their creative control. As someone submitting scripts, this and that, executives will have creative control. You could, in the way the studios sell now, you could get a green light deal for a movie with one set of executives. And when you go to finish the movie, it's another set of executives who have another idea about your film. So, you might have to tweak this, shorten the film, whatever. And you don't really have obviously you don't have total control because you have executives to answer to, and sometimes stockholders. And as a writer, I don't have that. So I can make my women as strong as I want, as fun as I want, as loving, as mischievous as I am. And so I knew what I wanted to write, and I know that strong female stories sell. And I've been able to prove that with my books.
With your books. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing for my listeners, because there's so many things, roadblocks in their way, somebody, like you talked about, executives, they don't really have control of their creativity. There's a fear maybe on things that they like to do. So I think that is awesome. And I liked how you put that, the Hollywood Insider, you took control of your creativity, because even you had the screenplays, you gave them ideas. It's like, you're a woman. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that too. And the other thing I'll give, here's a little tidbit that I learned from my mentors and did is when I'd have a suggestion, I wouldn't just go to a meeting and go, hey, I have a suggestion. I wrote it up as a proposal. I would write it up with, it might cost this. We should see this. This company's doing this. I'd turn it in. Now, it doesn't mean that they would recognize that I turned it in,
Right.
because 6 months later, a male would come up with something very similar, if not the same thing, and say X. And I'd go, oh, yeah, look at this paper. I proposed that 6 months ago.
Oh, my. Yeah.
And that's how I would. Yeah. So I always did it in writing. I always gave it to the executives. And then when someone came up with it 6 months later that was not female, I would present it again and say, yeah, this is the exact same thing I presented to you 6 months ago.
And that's something. That sounds so familiar. When we were talking earlier, how I said, and maybe I should have done a proposal like you rather than raising my hand and said, well, I think this is blah, blah, blah. And they just, put me to the sideline, and then somebody else would say it and they'll agree with it.
That's why I did it on, do it on paper, because you got the proof.
Exactly. As we kind of wrap up, I'd like you to because you, your background has equipped you to create what I'm calling compelling stories and deliver captivating interviews, ensuring that women's voices are heard and celebrated. And as you know, my listeners are women. Well, I'm sorry, men, some of you are listening, but my primary focus for this in my book was for women. Would you be able to craft a narrative for my listeners that would inspire them to change, that would inspire them to get those roadblocks out of the way, and that would inspire them to get unstuck? Or is there anything? Because one of the things that I've done is when I exercise and I walk a lot, I will always listen to something inspiring, something to learn. I love learning. It's amazing. Like, give me, and I get inspired by that, like, oh, I can do anything now. Never underestimate the power that we have and what we are capable of doing, but we don't do it because we're stuck. And we're concerned about what this person will say, what this person will say. So would you be able to craft a little narrative that will inspire them?
Absolutely. We as women have been told a lot of things. Not true. A lot of it not true. We don't need to be quieter, cuter, or bat our eyelashes. We can show our intelligence. I remember my mom telling me, don't be so intelligent around men. They don't like it. Well, too bad. So, probably why I'm still single. But anyway, lose the fear. The fear is not reality. Fear is what you think might happen, or you're worried about what might happen, and none of that changes anything. Be bold. Be yourself. You can be feminine and be strong. You don't have to become, dress in a suit and a tie, which I did one Halloween at the studios. I dressed as a male executive and walked in, and my boss said, "What are you doing? What are you supposed to do?" And I said, "I'm a man, and I think you'll listen to me today."
Exactly.
And, I point out things. Trust yourself. You can believe in yourself, but then you have to trust yourself. Stop and think about the things you've done in life. You've probably made sacrifices if you have children. You've done things that you need to do to get things done. Now apply that to yourself. Do what you need to do to make you happy. Figure it out. Sit down and write just a little paper on what if I could do anything, what would that be? And then don't worry about the front doors. You don't get in the studio by knocking on the front door. You go through a window, you go through something else, right? Come down the chimney like Santa, who cares? Right. But, do what you need to do. And if it's something you're passionate about and you're going to give your all to it, you're going to succeed one way or another. You might not be, if you're looking for fame, which I hope you're not, but if you are, you might not get to fame, but are you enjoying what you're doing?
Right.
That is what is important. And you need to take care of yourself and believe and trust in yourself and do it, because if you don't have the skills, guess what? You can learn everything online. Get the skills, take some classes.
Exactly.
Try, like I said, a novella, a little book, a little something, and get through those main steps and go, okay, I did that. I can do it. I can do a full book. Reach out and make sure the people that are in your life support you. There's someone in your life who doesn't support you. My mom did not support me. You need to get them out of your life. And I had a therapist tell me, you need to get away from your mother. So I learned that I didn't need her acceptance. I learned that I needed my acceptance.
Exactly.
And I would still do things, like her birthday, send her a card and stuff, even though my brother would go, oh, she threw it in the trash. Oh, so what? I did what I needed to do for me. It wasn't for her. It was for me.
Yes.
So if I can, pick the friends and surround yourself with people who support you, good, bad, or, my friends are, I swear I am blessed with the best friends in the world. And my first book, even though I know it had errors in it and the editor I had didn't do well, and I got some, not so nice reviews, like I should have spent money on editing, but I did. It wasn't a good editor. They told me how much they loved it. Oh, keep going, keep going.
Right.
That's what you need. Men have a lot of support. Men have literally a path driven for them. We women have to stick together. We have to support one another. We're doing that now. You saw it in the Olympics with the gymnastics team in USA.
Yeah.
That is amazing support for one another.
It is.
We're, no catfighting. Don't look at another woman who you think's taking your man. That attitude, we have to get rid of that. We have intelligence. We have created so many inventions. There was a guy who posted the other day that said, well, men invented cars. What did women do? Well, I wrote back and said, we gave you turn signals, windshield wipers, and improved the car. Then we also gave you the internet. Then we also gave you, the grocery bags. So and I went on and listed all these things that women invented. And gosh, she didn't reply. I don't know why. We invent a lot. We have a lot of intelligence, and God gave us intelligence for a reason.
Exactly.
And for those men who quote the Bible that we are to obey them, you better reread the Bible. First of all, the word was not obey. It was a Greek word along the lines of submission. And it was a full submission where you use your full intelligence, all your wisdom, everything that you know. It was not you're going to bow to me kind of.
That's right. That's right.
So get that out of here. Don't let anybody give you little clips of a verse, of a paragraph, of a story, and then quote you that little verse, because if you read before it, that man better be willing to die for you.
Oh, my goodness.
Words before that say, he is to love you as God so loved the church, and he died for us. We are powerful women. Only women stayed at the cross. I hope you don't mind if I'm getting a little religious here, but only women stayed there when Christ died. The men fled. So women, we have a lot of strength. We have a lot of strength. We need to use it.
Yes, that was wow. What a way to wrap this podcast up. I love that, Kay. That was just so awesome. How can my listeners get in touch with you? I know you said Kay Oliver. They can get on your website.
K.A. Oliver, because there's another writer that doesn't have the A. So K.A. Let's spell out my name. KAYAOLIVER.com.
Okay, great. And you're on all platforms. You're on LinkedIn, Instagram. I think you're on Facebook, I saw. Yeah.
If you go to my website, all those connections are listed on the first page. So you can join me on social media and see what's coming out. I have another book coming out here in a month and a half now. It's September. So, yeah.
Wow. Good for you. Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you are taking control of your creativity. I have one last question for you, though. What's next for you? Do you look in the future for yourself, or you just take a day at a time?
Well, I've always looked to the future. I hardly ever look to the past. There's certain things that I don't even bring up that other people bring up. Like, oh yeah, that's true. But more books. I mean, I really do. I enjoy writing. I write a lot. I can write for hours at a time. But just enjoying life, really. I am always happy to be able to give to a charity. I give a lot of my books away with like little teas and little teacups and put them in a nice little basket and give them off to charity so people can enjoy, and charity can get money. So I love working with charities and doing things like that. If Road to Elysium does become a movie, then, I'll be working with that.
Right.
But that's okay if it doesn't. I've been there, done that. So, but, I have some friends that are still in Hollywood, which I help write them out of jams, or they find themselves writing, into a corner. So I enjoy dabbling in it now as when I want to, and just enjoying life.
Wow, that's great. Well, the Road to Elysium, I pray that it becomes a movie. And my listeners, you've met K.A. Oliver, and you said, that's her. I heard her on the podcast. Well, I tell you, I just want to thank you for your wisdom, your candor. I really appreciate that. And I loved it when you said, as women, we need to collaborate. When you use the gymnastics a little bit as a role model, which was great. So my listeners, and I know you've heard something today that has encouraged you, I'd like for you to share this information. This podcast will be on all platforms, so there's no excuse, and it'll allow you to listen over and over and over if Kay has said something that resonated with you. So thanks for being here. I go live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. God bless you all, and bye for now. And thank you so much, Kay.
Thank you. It has been an absolute pleasure. Lovely talking to you.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you've been enjoying our empowering conversations, make sure you don't miss out on future episodes of Is Your Way in Your Way podcast. Stay in the loop with all the latest episodes. Join our mailing list over at CassandraCrawley.com. And before you go, hit that like button, share with your friends, and subscribe now. Until next time, let's get ready to live your best life.